Hello and welcome to the mini series on Madras. Sometimes in the path of literature, you find milestones. Writings and writers thereafter are judged by a single book or a single writer. Ponniyin Selvan by Kalki Krishnamurthy was certainly a milestone in Tamil literature and Madras history. Books prior to Ponniyin Selvan in Tamil were morose, dark, and with heavy themes and not suited for the common man. With one sweep of his creative pen, Kalki could brush aside the typical Tamil literature of early 1900s and usher in a new era of Tamil writing and brought in millions of new novel readers who would go on to read other Tamil literature and enrich the language. Writer Kalki Krishnamurthy shot into prominence with the boom in Ananda Vikadan's fortunes. He was a freedom fighter, but he lost his lucrative job of deputy editor in Ananda Vikadan because he wished to participate in the individual Satyagraha of 1941. He had been chosen by Mahatma Gandhi to participate in that agitation as the sole representative of Mayavaram town. He had a tiff with S.S. Vasan, the movie mogul, who also owned Ananda Vikadan and lost his job there. When Krishnamurthy served a jail term for his role in the Indian independence fight, he was sitting behind bars. He wanted to start his own magazine. He was dreaming of it. It was not easy, he knew, because in the wartime, paper was scarce and so was printing machinery, and his personal capital was almost zero. Kalki was penniless. However, he soon overcame his odds, and after his release in a few months, would start the Kalki magazine with the support of his friends Sadasivam and Subbulakshmi. The Kalki magazine, more than Ananda Vikadan, proved to be a forum that lit the literary fairs of this author. Kalki, as a youngster, grew up in Manalmedu, a small village near Mayavaram. He had an access to English books, which was very rare in those 1920s. He was deeply awed by the books of Victor Hugo, Alexander Dumas, R.L. Stevens, and Jules Verne. When he started his own magazine, Kalki started experimenting with historical fiction. Like Stevenson and Hugo, he believed if a man is not eager for adventure in real life, an able novelist can provide him that experience. That's what Kalki wanted to do for the Tamil readers. And exactly like Hugo, he commenced serializing his historical stories. It didn't come as a book, it came as weekly serials in his Kalki magazine. Kalki's novel Sivagamiyin Sabatham, set during the Pallava times, was mainly about the Pallava-Chalukya conflict. Pulikesi had invaded the south, and Narasimhavarman and his father Mahendravarman had to fight against it. It was a depressing novel. It was more suited to the violent years of the freedom struggle, and it had mountains of dismembered corpses, human and animals. At one point, when Kalki is describing the war, he would stop abruptly and even say he needs a Vyasa or a Homer to describe it more aptly. Wartime censorship, British high-handedness, and the sense of being in a slavish state was affecting Kalki. But then came 1947, and the colonial rulers departed. Kalki envisioned the idea of a feel-good novel, something that could make everybody happy, in which the entire novel, one or two people only die. And all happy things happen, and everybody turns out to be a good man at the end. He wanted to reflect the new positivity of the late 40s and the early 1950s. By weaving an epic tale called Ponniyin Selvan, which actually means Kaveri's son, he kindled the essence of Tamil vanity among the readers. Kalki had by then moved to Madras, far away from the landscape he loved, the Cauvery shores. Perhaps he looked wistfully at the Adyar River in Madras, beside which he lived in Gandhi Nagar, and dreamt of a novel meandering around the river Cauvery. The novel was about Rajaraja of the Cholas, who expanded his empire and left behind towering edifices. But little did people know about Rajaraja's early years. He was not even in the line of succession. His uncle was there, his elder brother was there, and Rajaraja as a youngster would not have even dreamt of becoming a king in his life. Only by a quirk of fate did Rajaraja, then called Arunmozhivarman, ascend the Chola throne. Kalki chose the period when Rajaraja is in the wilderness, without a thought of becoming the king. Ponni is another name of Cauvery, from which Ponniyin Selvan is derived. Though Rajaraja had 64 ceremonial names, Ponniyin Selvan was not one. It was a name that Kalki had given to the king that he loved. The title of Ponniyin Selvan was on a fictional premise. that as a child, Rajaraja fell into the river Cauvery during a royal picnic, and the goddess of Cauvery saves him and brings him up. A loyal reader is the most elusive character, but Kalki sustained the alliance of millions of them for years with his down-to-earth writing and vivid descriptions. It always ended the weekly episode with some suspense. So that held on to those readers till the next week. Stunning pictures by Ponniyin helped the audience visualize the characters, and it found a resounding acceptance among the audience. Ponniyin Selvan was serialized in Kalki, and no novel had as much reception while being written. Kalki magazine sales reached epic heights of 70,000 copies, putting its challengers like Ananda Vikadan in panic. For a period of 3.5 years, fans stood in pre-dawn queues in railway stations where bundles of magazines and newspapers were offloaded to lay their hands on a copy of Kalki. Some houses in rural Tamil Nadu even displayed notice boards on their gate that Ponniyin Selvan would be read aloud here. Such households, which could afford to buy a copy, would like to share it with those who are not fortunate enough to buy one or know how to read Tamil. They would have somebody read aloud that week's episode to a gathering of villagers. The title of the novel was deceptive at best. Rajaraja is not the lead character in Ponniyin Selvan. Rajaraja was too big a character to be messed with. He couldn't prance around trees, romancing his lady loves. And but Kalki's master stroke was his ingenious choice of a commoner, Vandiyathevan, as the main protagonist. Kalki cleverly chose a hero who was mentioned only thrice in the mile-long edicts of the Big Temple. Vandiyathevan is a typical boy next door who is a prince from the long-defunct Bana lineage and is visibly disappointed with his lack of luck and personal grandeur. To his credit, Vandiyathevan has a larger female following than any other character in Tamil literature. And there were tinges of Alexander Dumas in several places of Ponniyin Selvan as well. The chivalrous Vandiyathevan appeared too similar to D'Artagnan of the Three Musketeers. One could draw parallels between the exquisite Nandini as well to My Lady de Winter of the Three Musketeers. Vandiyathevan was not a war hero. What Crown Prince Aditya gave Vandiyathevan was not a dangerous mission. He just had to hand over a message, two messages. One to his ailing father in Tanjore and one to his sister in Pallava. But heroes attract events. On the way to Tanjavur, Vandiyathevan wants to drop in at the house of his long friend of the Prince of Samburayas. The Kadambur fortress is a huge and prosperous fortress on the banks of the Viranam lake. While sleeping on the terrace, he overhears the chieftains of the Chola land colluding over whose head the Chola crown should adorn next. The king Parantaka Sundara was disabled and infirm. Knowledge of the conspiracy turned Vandiyathevan's journey into a jolly old adventure where a hero takes his life in one hand and a spear in his other. Over an 8-month period, conspiracy and death had come to stalk the Chola royalty, and an outraged Vandiyathevan helps them hold on to their ground. Arch villains could be spotted all over the book, both among the allied kings as well as the Pandyas. To be mentioned is Ravidasan, the leader of the Pandya Avatudi, who wanted to avenge the death of their king, who was killed by Aditya Karikala. There has been a lot of speculation that Ravidasan rhymes with the name of S.S. Vasan, who was the ex-boss of Kalki and who had fired him. In the background among the conspiracies, there are a plethora of gentle romances, soft, tender relationships. Vandiyathevan and Kundavai, Arulmozhi and Vanati. This makes the book really attractive for the reader. A striking feature about Ponniyin Selvan as a historical novel was it had many commoners in it. Kalki sketched the routine citizen life in Chola days, something nobody had done before. Here were flower pickers, boat girls, lighthouse keepers moving along with princes and princesses. It appeared that most of the star protagonists of the story were picked out from the teeming states of the Madras presidency, and the reader identified them as one of their own. By concluding the book, where a flower boy becomes the Chola emperor and a boat girl is empress, Kalki had announced to the world that democracy had gained a definite currency in the new India. In 1954, Kalki did the unthinkable. He concluded the novel without a convincing finish. The main couple were not married, and the prince was not crowned, the villains were not dead, but the novel was over. The characters had by then become a part of the family, and readers were outraged. Thousands of them did nothing to hide their annoyance and wrote scathing letters to Kalki to resume the story, but he would not budge. Thousands of letters forced Kalki to react at least, and he did. It's good that I stopped when people were asking why I haven't stopped, he joked. And surprisingly, Kalki succumbed to his ill health 6 months later, leading people to wonder if he had a premonition of his death and didn't want anybody else to continue this novel. Kalki was posthumously awarded the Sahitya Academy Award for his social novel Alayosai. However, he is remembered by the public mainly for his historical fiction, and of them Ponniyin Selvan. Even the stamp that the government issued on Kalki remains one of this great novel. At least once a decade, Kalki magazine has been republishing this serial with new pictures by new artists for the new generation of readers. Nationalization of Kalki's books has enabled book publishers to print this book free of royalty costs, and it is still a bestseller in most book fairs. Sequels have been written to Ponniyin Selvan. The novel has come in a comic form. Stage plays have been done, but a movie, not yet. Even Kalki's other stories like Kalvanin Kadali or Poiman Karadu or the historical Parthiban Kanavu have been filmed. The impact of Kalki's writing has been found in other historical movies. Even Bahubali had a scene or two which reminded one of the words of Kalki in Ponniyin Selvan. Vanjikote Valiban has several sequences which I just picked out from the novel. MGR was a great fan of Kalki. He was a co-resident of Gandhi Nagar and even participated in the funeral of Kalki. Twice in his character, he would play Narasimha Pallava, a character Kalki made famous in Sivagamiyin Sabatham. MGR was the first to obtain rights for Ponniyin Selvan. He wanted to make a movie out of it. He also did the casting and posters were designed. MGR wanted to direct this movie. He was just fresh from the success of Nadodi Mannu, but it never happened for him. Finally, after many directors attempting to film Ponniyin Selvan, the script has landed on the table of Mani Ratnam. Mani Ratnam wants to make it as a two-part movie to be released in 2021 or 2022. But let's see how the characters of Kalki, who every reader has already visualized in his mind, sees them on Mani Ratnam's film and how he reacts to it.